Welcome to another episode of the Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification icon. And if you're on iTunes, please go subscribe and leave a sexy or creepy review on there. I will be reading the best or worst reviews every week, so long as they are 5 stars. I am so excited to have this guest on today. He is actually one of the Facebook whistleblowers. He has been working undercover, collecting footage with other journalists and other insiders to basically expose Facebook for shadow banning, deleting content, deleting comments, just basically algorithms with a political agenda. This is very exciting. This is hot news right now. Zach McElroy, nice to have you, buddy.
Pleasure to be here.
Now, explain to us what's going on. I'm assuming you don't currently work for Facebook anymore.
No, the contract ended with the company that I was with late February. They terminated everybody and, they let everybody go and they closed all the offices. So.
Wow. Okay. And this was even before all the pandemic stuff started.
Yeah, it was right after that stuff hit. So, yeah.
Okay. So explain to me, so you're working there. What was your job at Facebook?
So I was a content moderator. The office there was for content moderation, which is to say that when somebody makes a post or when somebody reports a post on Facebook or Instagram, they think it should be taken down, gets sent to us to review. We either leave it up, take it down, do whatever we do with it. And yeah, basically we're the mods for Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, you're like daddy. You're like mom and dad of Facebook. So at what point did you start to go, okay, something seems a little off with our practices here?
Oh, right away. I think the training for the job consisted of disseminating their policy, what it meant, what you do with it. And, everything, like half of the problem with all this stuff is apparent in the policy. So right away I saw everything that was wrong with it. And, it was kind of a quandary. I was like, well, this is terrible, but what do I do about it? When am I going to go with this information? Can I leak this stuff online and risk my legal safety for nothing? Because nobody's going to pay attention to that if you just do that. So yeah, it was a long time thinking about what I could do. And eventually I had a chance meeting with Eric Cochran, the Pinterest insider. And that kind of convinced me, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll give Project Veritas my card. And we connected from there and we're rolling very quickly.
So for how long were you collecting this information?
About 4 months.
Okay, about 4 months. So these feelings that you were getting that the content moderation is kind of unfair, was it coming more from your coworkers or more just like official documents or, meetings and that sort of thing?
Initially it was documents, but later on I also noticed that there were some personal biases with some of my coworkers. I have a very distinct memory of one worker who was leaving. I think he had gotten some other job, and he said that I'm just going to delete all the conservatives that I see. I'm going to delete all the Trump posts that I see. To quote, or to kind of paraphrase, he would be like, you're a fascist, you're a racist, you're, whatever. And he would take all the posts down.
So he would say these things as he's deleting, as he's moderating Facebook.
Oh, yeah, well, he explained that to us in the break room at one point, is what he did.
Like that was his way of making it fun and feeling like, oh, he's making a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is crazy. It's crazy. No one likes to be stereotyped, but it's especially terrible because it seems like now more so the silent majority is kind of moving towards the more conservative side, and it is more seemingly a right-wing value that you are to not judge someone by the color of their skin or their gender or anything else. And I remember when I was going to college, I went to Fairfield U, classic liberal education, got a BA in communications, and I sort of come out and I identify very much as a Democrat at that time. And now I feel like I'm more like a classic liberal, but definitely more libertarian for sure. And it just seems like the what I knew as the radical left is now basically the entire left. And it seems like there are more variations on the center and on the right. And it seems like a lot of these posts are getting deleted. You know, the person might not even be a Trump supporter. It could just be like, hey, look at this. How are these practices like hurtful? Like, how do they affect, you know, like what do you think is the outcome of these moderation practices?
Well, it's hurtful in the general sense, obviously, if you're stifling free speech. You know, that's obviously something that almost anybody could agree on, I guess, except for some of the folks who went rogue. But it's also more harmful in a more tangible sense. There are some policy exceptions that they make internally that can be, in my opinion, downright dangerous. There was a famous example last year where Facebook had a clause in their violence and incitement policy that allowed for calls for violence against people who were on their internal dangerous individuals and organizations list,
Wow.
which is made up of a lot of extremists, but also people as innocuous as Gavin Innes.
Right.
So that kind of made the rounds when conservative circles last year, really kind of caused a bit of a ruckus, so to speak. Paul Joseph Watson, I think, wrote the article initially, and essentially, yeah, I mean, it made it so that you could do, I mean, almost basically a death threat against someone. You can call for violence against somebody as long as they're on that list, and
Wow.
they got such backlash for that allegedly, so it was reported, they actually backtracked and they removed that portion of the policy from the public terms and conditions. So if you were to go look at their terms and conditions guidelines, you wouldn't see it there anymore. And they updated the articles to reflect that they changed that. But the reality is it was never actually changed. Internally, the policy stayed the same. The policy for content moderators like myself was still that if somebody makes a call for violence against somebody like Gavin McInnes, for instance, that's actually completely allowed because Facebook, I guess, says he's a bad guy. He's actually on the same list as someone like Adolf Hitler. So
Yeah, apparently it takes less and less to be called Hitler these days. And I'm sure if Hitler were alive, he'd be thrilled to know that he has so many people like him. Apparently, that's really crazy because I have a show on Compound Media, which Gavin McInnes used to have a show on, and I think Milo Yiannopoulos rents the space to still do his show out of there. And I've met Milo, and it's like he's just kind of like a fabulous flamboyant gay man. He was like, he made fun of what I was wearing, which I'm still not over yet, but I'm like, he doesn't seem nearly as bad as people make him out to be. It's this idea of this list is really bothersome to me because comedians, we talk amongst ourselves, like who's shadow banned, who's not. We start to notice like certain posts aren't getting as much traction as they used to. And it seems like the older I get and the more I lean into my sense of humor, the more it's like, I guess I'm edgier than like the average, Comedy Central type comic. And my friends are all kind of like pushing the envelope. Like they're aware of the Q movement. They're like big into conspiracy theories, and some that are just like want to find the truth. And we're finding more and more of us are like being shadow banned, our YouTube videos are being demonetized. Like I just noticed with myself, like I just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and I was like, great, now I can start monetizing. And literally half of my videos, it'll say like limited, which means like they don't really put ads on them, and over not very much. Like I'll like a lot of my friends are porn stars and I'll just interview them. Like we'll just chat about kind of regular stuff and like boom, limited, like Sam Tripoli, Tommy G, limited. And so it is interesting to hear because, right, people can just say, oh, it's just a bot, but someone's got to write these algorithms. And
yeah, exactly. You see that in something like the civic harassment queue, which was talked about in the video, which is well, I'll explain this first. So the workflow as a content moderator consists of a number of different queues. So these queues will feed you posts based on, I guess, the kind of violation that they are, so to speak. So they kind of have a queue for hate speech, they have a queue for graphic violence and things like that. A little while ago, they rolled out a queue new queue called civic harassment. And the intention of the queue was supposed to, I guess, prevent harassment on the pages of politicians and journalists, but it's primarily a political oriented queue. And so what the queue would do is it would automatically collect and curate randomly posts from, or posts and comments on pages of politicians, journalists, public figures in politics, basically. And the idea is that it's like a random general sampling of posts that, a random sampling of posts that will kind of give you like a gauge, a temperature gauge of like what people are saying, and if anything's violating, take it down. Except you would expect that a random sampling of pages would probably have like a pretty even split
Mixed
between,
view, yeah.
Yeah, pretty even split between conservatives versus liberals, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. Certainly within proportion to the population. But I noticed that it was very, very slanted towards a lot of conservative pages and a lot of conservative posts. And so I made a habit of tallying every post that I saw come through that queue that I got, that I had to review. And of the, I think, the hundreds of posts that I reviewed, I think 2/3 up to 70%, sometimes depending on the day, up to 80% of the posts that were in that queue were conservative pages. They were conservative, Republicans, basically. And so we're wondering exactly why that is. We see this as a bot that makes this collection. It's not individual people reporting a post like it normally.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it a random group? Are you getting anybody who reports anything?
Exactly. Well, I get those, but I also get the bot automatic reports. So it's going to be interesting to see what Facebook's explanation for this is. And I wonder what they're going to do after they see what's going on.
So you're in that position, you're seeing all these, these pages and these posts come across your desk, and you know that they're skewed, and you know that they have a political bias. Did you, at what point, were you just sort of clicking them through like, well, you don't want to get fired, right? You don't want to be the one not doing what you're told, or were you sort of like sneakily sort of not letting them through? Do you know what I mean? Like, were you?
But that's precisely what some of the people that we got on video did. I would never do that. I would never, go out of my way to enact my own worldview, or to, judge people based on my own worldview, take things down that I just felt like doing. I never did that. And yeah, indeed, because it was a lot of unfair policies and unfair policy exceptions, and the framework was kind of unfair. I did have a pang of guilt involved in, for being involved in a company that was, censoring people online. But I felt really, I didn't feel like that for long, because soon after, I think I kind of realized how unique my position was, because there probably were maybe only one or two other conservatives in that entire building doing that job. So I kind of am like a man on the inside, is how I felt. And then I quite literally became an insider. So
do you think they knew that about you when they hired you?
No, I keep my politics pretty close to my chest usually until today. So
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had any way to know, and I don't usually like talking about politics anyway at work. So
that's really the way to go. It's kind of nobody's business, but it has been made everybody's business, which is like pretty inappropriate. So if you can recall any of these posts or the things that were like flagged by the bot, right? Would it be like hate speech per se, or would it just be a different point of view?
Yeah, actually, most of the posts in the civic harassment queue are completely innocuous. There was nothing violating about 99% of them. They were just genuinely random posts that were collected. What's not random about it is the pages that they were collected from.
Okay.
So you have a situation where it's a bot, but somebody had to kind of tailor the algorithm. Someone had to generate the bot. And I'm sure it was probably something like a list. They probably had somebody adding which pages to monitor, so to speak. I can't speak to that with total authority because I was not on the programming side. I was simply a moderator.
Right. And as a moderator, what kind of pages were you seeing? Like, what were the examples of the pages you would see?
Yeah, we saw some big accounts. We saw Donald Trump's accounts. His pages were on there. I think some Instagram pages. I think the typical liberal was in there. We had Project Veritas video, actually, I saw came through the queue once, which was kind of funny.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's Dan Bongino, Hannity, the typical figures. And every now and then, maybe you get like a Bernie post or maybe like a, someone on the left, but that would be like few and far between. Most of the time you get like 3 or 4 conservatives in a row.
Okay, so I'm trying to think like this came out sort of recently, right? It was Trump sort of acknowledged basically that Twitter was like fact checking him. Was that at all going on during the time you were still working for Facebook?
Yeah, so the fact checking thing that whatever the that kind of stuff that Facebook's doing is, again, wasn't my department, so to speak. But I mean, if it was going on, it's like I didn't really see much of that. That's something that I would be really interested to see somebody on the inside of Facebook HQ come forward with. If anybody on the inside of Facebook HQ who is in that department, who has any access to that information, please come forward. I'm begging to see that.
This is like our little secret club we're forming. Yeah, I remember in March, Gal Gadot and some of her friends came out. Did you see that video? Then when they were singing a lot, like each singing a line of Imagine, because they were trying to like,
yeah.
I don't know, I guess pacify the peasants. I don't know. They were trying to make everybody feel comforted that the celebrities were, acknowledging our pain in coronavirus. I don't know, but I did like a spoof on it. So like me and my other comedian friends, we each sang a line of Kung Fu fighting. And this was back in March. So I said to everybody, I'm like, if you want, you can say Kung Flu or not. It's a trending hashtag, do whatever you want. So some of them did. And then it came out and I got so much shit from definitely the left. A lot of the Asian community came after me. And then it took a whole month, but finally it was taken off my Instagram for hate speech. And literally all we did was sing the lyrics to Kung Fu Fighting. And that was fucking hate speech, man. Like I can't, I mean, it really gets me mad. I mean, I kind of was like, I moved on with my life because it had been up there for a month and it kind of like, it did what it was supposed to do. People laughed, but I was like, how is this hate speech? We're literally singing a song that's been out since the 70s.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. So I wish I could speculate. I really don't. I don't want to speculate on record about what they might be doing about coronavirus, what they might be doing about, other things behind the scenes now, because all that stuff, of course, has happened since I left. I'll say that certainly they've not been shy about providing the moderators exceptions to policies and memos about special events regarding how they should treat posts like that. It's kind of hard to say, but basically, there's a lot of memos like that behind the scenes they tell people, this is what you have to do with this. And I think Kung Fu Fighting does not violate the policy as it is. So if that was taken down, it might have been somebody going rogue like some of the people in the video did. They might have just said, "You're a racist, I'm taking that down."
Wow.
Or perhaps there's an exception. Perhaps they made a policy exception for Kung Flu. I don't know.
It's crazy. It's so crazy to me. Like, of all the stuff, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be inappropriate, but I just was like so shocked. And then like, people were tagging other celebrities, like people asking Chrissy Teigen to help take it down. I'm like, she doesn't care about you. People are tagging Oprah. I'm like, what are you?
And indeed, it doesn't take much these days.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really interesting, Zach. What is your hope in coming out with all of this information?
Change, simple as. I'm hoping for legislative action because nothing else has worked so far. We've had I can't tell you how many times I've seen Mark Zuckerberg testify and say this isn't happening. We know it's happening. We've known it's happening. Now we have proof. And so I think what needs to happen is the last resort. Last resort is legislative action. I'm totally willing to testify before Congress, things that I've seen to the best of my ability, and speak the truth. So I saw what I saw. I'm just going to tell you what I saw. It speaks for itself, in my opinion. So I think the thing that I would like to see happen will be, like I said, change. And I think it's going to take legislative action to do it because we've had a lot of talk about Section 30 now. I'm glad that we are. Trump did the executive order. And I hope that with this, it'll be some wind in the sails. It'll move forward.
Good. And were you also involved, or were you like privy to. I think I saw on one of the Project Veritas videos, it was something about like preferential hiring treatment to H-1B visas. Can you speak about that at all?
I apologize. It's going to be a short answer. I wasn't
Oh,
involved in that one. Yeah.
okay. I'm just like trying to organize all these things for myself. This is very, very interesting. Do you think these moderators were consciously aware that what they were doing would and could affect the upcoming election? Or do you think that they just, felt, all right, this is just what I'm doing. This is just this post. They felt like they were doing the right thing. Or do you think they were like, wow, I'm going to affect this election?
It's a very good question. I don't know how many of them are conscious of it, but there certainly were people I talked to who were conscious of it. I spoke to one person. I said, I said, so, this is the day for like deleting Trump posts or something. It's because everybody was doing that. And she said something to the effects of, oh, I thought I was the only one. I've been doing that. And she said, she specifically said this was revenge. She kind of felt that it was like her personal vengeance against, I guess Republicans, against MAGA people. So They're definitely people who are conscious of what they're doing. One man I spoke to, one big quote, and it's a famous quote, I guess a lot of people have been saying this, is get the Cheeto out of office. So
I heard that. We got to get the Cheeto out of office.
I think that's the sentiment. The sentiment is that they want him out, and whether they're conscious of it or not, that's what they're contributing towards. And I think some of them are conscious that that's what it's going to lead to, because this is, it's unprecedented. The flow of information controlled by Facebook and Instagram is so vast. And you have all of this funneled into the population of however many thousand people I think are doing this content moderation job. And they're all hired in primarily Democrat left-leaning states and cities.
Wow.
And so as a matter of course, they're all mostly, Democrats or liberals. Like I said, I was probably like one of the only conservative guys there. So You have now a situation where a large portion of the public discourse is at the mercy of big tech, and not even just big tech, but people who are willing to do whatever they want. However many people would do that, it's hard to say. We reviewed something like 200 posts on average per day, sometimes more, individually. So you think about how many of those 200 posts maybe were political, and then you multiply that by how many people who were willing to go rogue and take that stuff down, and you multiply that by however many centers, how many posts you can imagine are taken down every day because people feel like it, I guess.
Wow. Did you at any point feel like your coworkers were maybe onto you, or like were sniffing you out, that you did not share the same beliefs as them?
Not really. Maybe once or twice, but I kind of can be paranoid like that, so maybe not.
Yeah. You're like, they start asking questions and you're like, oh, wow, let's talk about South Park. No.
Oh, that happened a lot. Yeah, a lot of people don't, despite their personal views, maybe don't really want to talk about politics anyway. And that's kind of the thing. There's a lot of nuance to the situation, because these are people who, for them, it might have been the best paying job that they'd ever had. This is it was kind of a island in a sea of other sort of low skill labor, so to speak. That's not to say anything of low skill labor. Obviously, I was in it. So it's very nuanced situation for sure.
I remember one of the quotes that really stuck out from one of your videos was like, yeah, well, we can't control what Trump says, but we can take out the average Joe who repeats what he says.
And that, I think, that's the end game, because Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg realizes he can't do anything to Donald Trump's page. He's courting favor with Donald Trump. He's having, dinners with him, wining and dining the president, and reassuring him, oh, we're not going to take down, your page. We're not going to censor, these other big names in conservative politics. But this stuff is not happening to them. This stuff is not happening to the big names. It's happening to the small people. It's happening to the small pages. It's happening to the 90%, the 99% of people who support him. So I just want to say right now, James is actually joining me. So.
Oh, yay! Hi, James.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Big fan. Long time, first time, long time. I'm saying it the wrong way.
To be on, just putting a lav mic on right now. Here we go. All set.
Wow, this is great. I imagine both of you are sitting there in jackets and ties, but like no pants.
I'm wearing this suit on a release day. It's uncharacteristic of me.
Ooh.
Zach always wears a suit. Every time I meet Zach, he's in a suit.
I love it. Well, you guys
Like
look
a big
great.
fan.
Thank you.
James, what's your feelings about everything going on and everything you've seen from and heard from Zach?
Well, I just think it's important for these companies to be honest. I just think, I don't know what the policy is on Section 230, but I think companies need to be honest if they're banning, if they're targeting Republicans and trying to meddle in the election. They should just say it. This is our policy. This is our algorithm. This is how it works. They have to be transparent about it. They would certainly be expected to do that if they were doing the inverse. If they were targeting Democrats, if Russia spends $100,000 on ad buys, they triggers all types of sweeping changes. So I think what Zach has uncovered here is very newsworthy, and I know from sources in DC that various Facebook lobbyists right now are very scared of this. They do not want to be seen as being biased, but they're not willing to say anything about it because the Republicans have to grow a pair and actually, investigate. They have to charge someone with something, and I think they're afraid of the media. So Congress has to take action. I know Zach is going to testify before Congress, and we have Mark Zuckerberg under oath saying the opposite of what these people said. So all we can do is expose. We think it's very powerful, and just broke the story this morning. We have another one coming up this week.
That's great. And so what would it look like Republicans growing a pair? Like, what would that look like to you? Like, what would you love to see happen?
Well, I think certainly having Zach testify, I think bringing Mark Zuckerberg back under oath and asking him about these questions, putting pressure on these companies for television stations, for Fox News should be, people say Fox News is friendly. Okay. Where's the Wall Street Journal? Where's Bloomberg News? I think the media needs to actually hold Facebook accountable. I think politics is downstream from culture, and newspapers have to call for comment. I don't know if they have. Maybe they're afraid of burning their sources inside Facebook. So it's not just politicians, but the media has a responsibility to play. And until that happens, has to kind of. I'm calling these people for comment, and it's someone accountable. But there is word that I believe at least one or two Congress people sending a letter to the Department of Justice.
Oh, wow.
Good news based on what Zach has found.
Wow. Yeah, it's really, really disgusting to see that that our information is being controlled by such a small group of politically motivated people, and it's scarier to see it's not even just the big outlets and the bigger voices. It's the smaller voices too. Zach was saying it's and I notice it among myself and my comedian friends. When it feels once you get up to the 10,000, 15,000 Twitter follower range, we notice us and our friends getting shadow banned. I was telling Zach that I put out a spoof of Kung Fu fighting on Instagram, and we just said Kung Fu fighting, and we were spoofing on Gal Gadot's Imagine video. And then a month later, it was taken down from Instagram, and the reason was hate speech. And just because we had substituted the one word, and it took a month, it took a while, but I still was wow, if this is hate speech, we're in a sad, sad place. And so it's really great that some of you from the inside are coming out about it, because it's what we've all kind of suspected all along over the last few years. So it's great to have somebody come out and say, yeah, you're not crazy. These are actual practices that we have to do. And that there's no diversity. It's so hypocritical that there's such a lack of diversity in the type of person that is moderating content. Yeah,
I mean, and this video has gotten over 1 million views this morning, and it's not actually trending on Twitter. So
I just checked. It is because I wanted to know, because I saw it. Yeah, I just checked Twitter, and exposing Facebook is in there. I mean, it's not the top one. Yeah, trending in the United States, expose Facebook.
That's 63,000 tweets, and that's for you. If you look at the top left on Twitter, it's for you. If you click overall, but
that's for me.
That's for you. But again, you bring a good click on the overall one.
Yeah, so just trending, right?
Just trending. And what do you see on that one?
No, I am not.
And how many tweets are on? show me the number of tweets on the general trending section.
You know, Taco Tuesday is trending right now, but
tweets?
not Exposed Facebook.
How many tweets?
For Taco Tuesday, 3,413.
Show me the screen for a second.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, United States trends. So you've got.
Do you want to see the top ones?
Taco Tuesday is trending at 3,400 tweets, and you just showed me 63,000 tweets. Megan, can we do a pick stitch of Taco Tuesday 3,000 next to 63,000, and we'll tag Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter?
Ron Jeremy is trending.
How many tweets does Ron Jeremy have?
10,000.
Okay, so Ron Jeremy is trending with 10,000 tweets. That's the porn star.
Yeah.
Former porn. I don't know if he's still. Porn.
Yeah, former porn star and producer. He's charged with 4 counts of sexual assault, which I was like, wow, only 4.
So I think there's a serious point here to be made about the absurdities, because it is obviously absurd. You just showed us Taco Tuesday 3,000 tweets, Ron Jeremy 10,000. R has 60,000. Is that, and this is a really important point. Those who curate the news, and the way those things work is that the companies prefer, their algorithms prefer it if like BuzzFeed and the New York Times covers the story, okay? And then they allow them to trend.
Wow.
If they're not covered by the blue checkmark brigade, then they don't trend. So the media not covering the story makes it not a story.
Wow.
No, it is newsworthy. So it's that's what we found to be true. It's not so much that Twitter is censoring the trend. It's that Twitter's algorithms prefer it when the New York Times, BuzzFeed, and Huffington Post cover it. So this is what it is. And then people say, well, no one's covering it, even though everyone's watching. It's pretty crazy stuff.
This is insane.
So we're gonna do. I'm just speaking out loud because I'm both doing this interview and managing my team at the same time. Guys, can we do a pick stitch on Taco Tuesday and Ron Jeremy with our trend and ask Jack Dorsey, WTF?
Do you want refried beans or black beans?
Yeah, trending at number 2 in technology is T-Mobile Tuesdays at 18.3K tweets.
Yeah, that's just a paid advertisement, I guess, right?
Yeah, Block Army, Block Party, Breonna Taylor. Yeah, I mean, if you had involved tacos, I think with your story
Facebook
here,
card?
yeah, it should be Exposed Facebook and tacos. I think you
Exposed
guys
Facebook.
would do okay.
Yes. Yeah, we I mean, it's getting hard to shock people, but I think the fact that people need to know is what we saw with the ABC Amy Robach hot mic tape was that it was insane. It was insane amount of, we're talking 6 million views in like 3 hours. And it wasn't until like the guy from, Talking Points Memo, the verified, journalist wrote a tweet about it. That's when it started to trend. So these gatekeepers have so much power. They maybe have more power than government, because government doesn't want to take action until the media shames them into taking the action. Therefore, the real mission is to get the New York Times to cover it. And the New York Times has become so woke that they're not going to do it. So what we need is more insiders. We need more Zachs. We have many more coming out. We have one coming out probably tomorrow or Thursday.
Oh, good.
And if you're watching or listening to this broadcast, we want you to be brave. We want you to wear a camera. We want you to do something. And that means basically being a whistleblower like Zach.
And take it from me. I did it. You can do it too. It's really inspiring to see the work that they've done. It can inspire a lot of confidence in you. And everything went as smoothly and as supportively as I could have hoped for. So I think you can do it too is my message.
Good. And I think why everyone is so afraid of Trump and so intent on hating him is because he is turning this whole thing on his head. He's able to have millions of people's ear, and he can speak directly to the people, and he doesn't have to go through all these, liberal, media outlets. And I think that he's a big threat to, their whole setup there.
Yes. Well, it was great joining you. I'm going to jump on yet another interview, and you can keep talking to Zach.
Certainly.
And it was good to see you.
Thanks, James. Good to see you.
You.
All right, Zach. Yeah, this is really crazy. I can't believe that I actually checked to see. I mean, I thought for sure, it's trending everywhere, Exposed Facebook, and then I go to trending, and it's nowhere to be found. And there are there's almost 64,000 tweets about Exposed Facebook. This should be in the top 5 on every topic.
Yeah, well, you would think so, but seems to be par for the course, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, this is crazy. Wow. So we'll definitely stay tuned. Zach, where can people follow you? Where, if people are interested in maybe coming out and speaking out, if they do work for one of these companies, where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've been inspired by this story to come out and do something yourself, if you're on the inside, send an email to veritastips@protonmail.com. They'll take care of you. And yeah, like I said, you can do it too. I can't say it enough. Be brave, do something is what they say. And for me, myself, I've got a Twitter account. You can follow me at Zach MCE. That's Zach with an H, MCE. And I've got a Telegram channel as well. It's in the Twitter bio. And, it's been a rough time. As I said earlier, they had actually laid everybody at my office off at late February, and then COVID hit, as we saw. So
wow.
It's been rough. It's been a rough time trying to find, reemployment, and notoriety comes with it, some issues and hassles as well. So it's been rough, but we've been fortunate enough to set up a GoFundMe for myself, which is, something I have great humility doing, because I like to work for a living, but this is something that's kind of unprecedented. So I greatly appreciate, and it's actually been so successful so far. I want to say, I don't know who's watching, who's donated, but I cannot thank you enough. It's been surreal to watch. It's really from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And if you have any interest in supporting, thanking for whatever the story is, a whole team that did this. But I mean, if I'm the face of it, I guess I'm the face of it. But if you liked it, the GoFundMe is gofundme.com/exposefacebook. So
yeah, if they want to hire you, they can probably tweet at you, right? Send you a DM.
Certainly, I think so.
Zach, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so brave what you're doing, and it's everything that you're saying is just confirming something that most of us have been thinking and feeling for a long time. So thank you.
I think so. And like I said, let's see some real change happen.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Zach.
Thank you.
Bye.